No, not good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, welcome to another Kerfuffle, a webinar stroke panel show where I'm bringing together the very best of agency here. Some people you will have seen many, many times, not least this week with me alone. Hello again, Michael. Hello again, Jamie Cook. Should be here. He's disappeared off somewhere. We don't know where he's gone to, but hopefully we'll find him again. So, welcome to you guys. Tom, hello.
Good afternoon.
And we've lost another one.
Just lost another one.
There's people bouncing in and out.
You've got a quota of Richard. You're only around one Richard on the panel at any one point in time. Is that the gist of it?
I think that's what it is. You don't.
Welly, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Don't start doing that routine again. Can you hear me? Routine. Richard, can you hear us? Right. We're not going to wait for that. Try your mic, Richard. Try your mic.
We can hear you, Richard.
Good. Can hear you.
How's your day going, Simon?
It's good. It's seamless. Absolutely seamless. So I think what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to have everybody introduce themselves. That would be the most useful thing. We're looking at, this is the Lockdown 2.0 panel, where we're going to be discussing, obviously, body pipeline, what we can be doing to help the whole process, what we believe the challenges are. And I think for people who are watching, it would be really, really useful for us to understand what each of your businesses do so we can understand the angle you're coming from. So just a really brief introduction, if that's okay. Because you've got a lucky position, Tom, of being next to me, even if it's just digitally, I'm going to go first, if that's okay.
Yeah, it is. I'll take that on. Thank you, Simon. I'm part of Sort Group, which comprises Sort Refer, which is a broker proposition, Sort Legal, which is our own CLC firm, and I head up Sort Move. So Sort Move is a platform specifically for estate agents, helping with their conveyancing, survey, specialist property report needs. And we're looking at some other useful tools at the moment, like digital sales progression and chain builder.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Tom. Michael, over to you.
My name is Michael O'Brien, Managing Director of Home of Mortgages. We provide mortgage services to estate agents. We have an online system where agents send us leads, and we're working hard to get the mortgage offers out for all of our estate agency partners.
You're a key worker to us, if anything else, Michael, so don't you worry about that. Richard, are you with us, or shall we go to the Ouija board?
I hope you can hear me.
We got you. Come on, then. You're one of the chosen people. Announce yourself. Let us know why you're supposed to.
Well, I missed all that because somebody coughed. Jamie, I hope you're all right.
It's man flu, not corona.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm Richard Megson. Thank you for inviting me along. I'm MD of Assured Sale and Progression. We do, as it says on the tin, sales progression, and we work with agents throughout the country. And our sole focus, not sole focus, but our main focus is to release time for agents to focus on sales, but also to speed up transactions.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to go. I'm saving the Liverpool fan till last. Don't worry, Brian. But let's have Jamie on. I've already had Jamie on. I might as well this morning. We might as well go on now, Jamie. You tell us who you are and.
2 times in one day must be some kind of punishment, Simon, I think. Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Cook. I'm co-founder of I Am Property. Day-to-day, I'm the managing director of I Am Sold. We're the largest outsourced auction provider in the UK. We're also the largest residential auction house in the UK. We specialise in providing outsourced auction solutions to estate agents the length and breadth of the UK.
Look at that, perfect. You can see, you can. That's good. Well done. Brian, over to you. 19 times league champions. Well done. I don't know why I'm telling you, but anyway, well done. Brian, Bazil, just give us a bit of an overview of your place.
Yeah, so we are the champions of vendor disclosure up front, transparency, security, certainty. We put into the market the certainty that removes all the anxiety that buyers and sellers have, and of course means that estate agents don't have any fall-throughs.
That genuinely sounded like a superhero pitch there. You were just chucking out those buzzwords. Yeah, absolutely.
I've learned to keep it straight.
I get that a lot. And then we have been allowed to Rich is on, so the accusation was wrong. Rich Durant, our very own Kerfuffle thought expert. How are you, Rich? As long as that's not you frozen, because your broadband's the only one worse than mine.
Can you hear me now?
Got you perfectly, yeah.
The only reason I believe I'm on here is my two conditions of joining Kerfuffle were, one, never to go drinking with Simon, and lockdown has meant he's stuck to that. And the second was never appearing on a webinar. And Simon's need to win has meant I'm here today.
Well, that's because you never bought Repeat from me. I told you I'd get you in the end. Yes, well, good stuff. Okay, look, one of the things we were doing, guys, that's what we would call it lockdown 2.0, was that we've been talking to thousands of agents, obviously, and it seems to us like the biggest challenge at the moment is pipeline churn and everything. Conveyancing process seeming to take longer, local searches, taking an inordinate amount of time, mortgage valuations and everything else. Just everything just seems to be hit. Agents are doing their job, aren't they? They're winning the listings, and there's just a real problem at the back end of it. First of all, do you agree with that synopsis? Is that a temporary blip in terms of, obviously, it's what's happening with lockdown at the moment? And what do you feel we can do to mitigate, obviously, that? Richard, could you kick us off with this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's clearly a massive problem at the moment. The market is not operating at anything near optimal. I suppose the question would be, has it ever? So conveyancing, certainly over the last couple of years, is taking a lot longer. Lockdown and the impact of it, market explosion, has simply exacerbated a problem that already existed. I'm going to start with a couple of fairly scary stats. So,
like stats?
In terms of what I'm hearing, some agents are turning over only 15% of their pipeline on a monthly basis. And the figures can be sort of here or there, give or take a day, but I'm hearing 160 days from sale agreed to exchange and completion. Those are two horrifying stats. And the impact on the agent in terms of cash flow, delays, and fall throughs, while not catastrophic, it's not great. So as a business, we think speed in most instances a big solution. Currently, on average, we are getting our cases over the line in 84 days. Pre-lockdown, it was 77 days. We spiked in July 111. So we can see, certainly within our business, based on hundreds of completions, the turnaround times are starting to come down, which is a positive. I think in terms of moving forward, certainly the next 3 to 4 months are going to be challenging. And there's delays all over the place. Obviously, there's mortgages, there's searches, the solicitor capacity, agents themselves. There's a whole host of things that are exacerbating the problems. I've got some suggestions of solutions, but I don't think I've been asked that yet.
We'll get there. Has it ever been longer than that in your experience, Richard?
No.
So what you're saying is basically, of course, whilst yours have got a little bit longer, the actual average has markedly worse, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the negotiator a couple of weeks ago. It is about 160 days. Now, that's on average across the country. So I spoke to the agent this morning in Swansea. They were talking 12 weeks, but that 12 weeks is a lot longer than they were achieving. So the average is across the country, freehold and leasehold. But I think we'll all agree that the longer something goes on, the more that can go wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so just by keeping it together quickly, we're going to have less falling out, aren't we? As we were just talking about yesterday. Okay, Michael, what about from your point of view?
Sorry, what was that, Simon?
Just from your point of view, that whole process, from the FS side of things.
Yeah, so, it's widely known that we're experiencing a lot of delays at the moment. Lenders are, there's different SLAs being given, but majority of lenders are looking for around about 30 days to even look at an application from initial submission. Likely culprits at the moment, Santander, NatWest, looking at 3 to 4 weeks before they're assessing an application. So I know that part of this is to look at how we can get mortgage completions prior to the 31st of August. And one of the answers is don't put your applications through that mess at Santander right now. There are lenders that are doing really, really well, though, which I have to mention. We've had offers out within a matter of days still with likes of Halifax, Gibson, TSB. These lenders are really good. So I think it does depend, obviously, on the broker. I'm going to say that, but it depends on the broker as well. You need to make sure that applications are correctly packaged first time. So right first time is something we monitor, and ensuring that they're packaged correctly, because otherwise they're going back to the lender another 30 days to sit hitting queues again. So making sure, and we say that to clients also, making sure that they are mortgage ready. As we say, I know me and Tom were speaking yesterday about getting clients mortgage ready, getting vendors mortgage ready, sale ready. So yeah, that's really important, and just so for clients to understand really upfront exactly what's needed for a mortgage application can definitely help. Yeah.
Cool. What about yourself?
Yeah, just to kind of continue that theme, it is about being sale ready. But I think the big problem is that we've pretty much got 12 months worth of industry being crammed into about 7 or 8 this year. If we look at our instructions during group, in lockdown 1, if we call it that, 85% of conveyancing instructions coming in were remortgage. So we had those to filter through, and of course those will go through a bit quicker. But year to date now, we're already at 55% transactional. So you can see the massive impact that has had on H2 of this year. Yeah. And it was only early this week that the CLC announced some figures on instruction numbers from a survey that they put out to their members in October. And almost 50% of their members have admitted to turning work down that's been tried to refer to them either by an agent, an intermediary, or direct from the client. So the huge problem is we've got this extra work trying to get through, but there just simply isn't enough resource to deal with it.
Wow. And Brian, from your point of view, is this a genuine problem, or do you think it's going to ease back to normal?
What I'm hoping for is that this will be one of the biggest and most, hopefully, important learning curves for everybody, all the actors in the play, right? So if conveyancers, mortgage brokers, lenders, public don't get this done and get it changed next year, what has to happen to make it change, okay? Yeah. I mean, you're all talking about stats. Look, Tom's right. There's 150,000 transactions additionally in the pipeline compared to this point of the year, compared to last year, right? And I think the biggest challenge is for because of the stamp duty potential termination at the end of March, is hysteria has been created where amongst the public, which is then fed through to the agents, which is then being pressured onto the solicitors, who are also, they haven't recovered yet in terms of all their staff numbers from a market that was, down this time last year anyway, irrespective of lockdown. So, but look, like all these things, next year there will be, a period of calm. We don't know exactly when, but I expect Q3, Q4 probably. But ultimately, what has to happen out of this is everybody needs to start doing something about it and not just keep talking about it. That's got to be the biggest lesson out of this. So this could be, in a strange way, the best thing that's ever happened to the industry. In a really strange way, I think to God it is. I'm currently trying to sell my house right now, so I'm going through it as my agents were told what to do by me, which those of you that know me won't be surprised at that. Did a really good job. The conveyancers are doing a really good job, and I'm not actually experiencing massive delays, but that is because the people that were appointed at the right stages were told what they need to do, and if they can meet that SLA, they get the business. Whereas I suspect, and I know being an agent for so long, what tends to happen is the agents put a deal together, put it out, and hope to God it's going to go through. without warning people, and of course it's just taking longer.
It's taking a tremendous, yeah. Tom Panos, the Aussie trainer, talks about poorly wrapped presents, doesn't he? And you're quite right, this pandemic could well be, it's going to be the driver, the accelerator to move towards, in some areas, a better system. And it would be a missed opportunity if we don't take it from what's going on at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the $1 million question then is: do you genuinely think that'll happen, or will we bugger it up again?
It's wishful thinking, I think, Brian. Surely.
Yeah, I think people like all of us on these webinars and people that have gone before us are the people that will get it changed. There's going to come a point, and I know this from the home buying and selling meeting yesterday, that hot topic, that there is going to be the start of pressure on the portals and agents to advertise more information about a property that will be material to a transaction. That's a definite first positive step coming out of the powers that be. So that's clearly an indicator that things will begin to change. But all of us on these webinars and the people that take the time to tune in, these are the people that will make this change. It's going to be up to the private sector to make the change, not the public sector. So we've got to do that. We've got to bang in the drum and eventually drag these people kicking and screaming with us, which they will.
There's the classic one there. The adoption curve for whatever it is starts up by definition, doesn't it? With early adopters, whatever you want to call them, advocates, and then everyone else follows. That's just the way of the world, isn't it? So the important thing is getting those initial ones on the upward slope, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Just before we go over to Jamie, could I just ask everybody, just by way, just put your hands in the air. We don't need to do it. Put your hands in the air if you think the stamp duty will be extended. Nobody.
Nah, he would have done it. He would have done it when he made his announcement this week. I think it's maybe he'll say that if you were sale agreed by a certain date, they'll let it run forward rather than extending it further. Then listen, look, the government needs the cash. The money tree, the magic money tree is going to stop at some point.
I think that they're focusing on Generation Buy. You heard Boris announce Generation Buy, announcing a 95% mortgage being available. I'm hoping that what they're planning is that 95% mortgages will come out, opening up another sector of the market.
Michael, you made the point when we were talking previously that last time that happened, it had an amazing effect, didn't it?
Yeah. So in 2014, 2013, I think it was, overnight, Halifax launched a 95% mortgage. So all those people that had saved up were saving towards with a 10% deposit suddenly had access to the market with the mortgage guarantee scheme. So and the market just stopped from there. So and also. If we look back to 2016, the stamp duty changes then. When we look at the graphs on transaction volumes, yes, it went up dropped off the cliff in April, but actually there was a resurgence in August because once people have made their decision to purchase a property, yes, stamp duty is a big blow and people then will sometimes pull out of transactions, but they've cognitively made a decision to move. That doesn't go away, so the desire to buy is still there. So it's just about whether they've got the ability to buy. And with 90% mortgages coming back, hopefully 95% mortgages coming back with the Generation Buy, some sort of mortgage guarantee scheme, I'm very hopeful that we're going to see a buoyant period well into 2021.
Good. I like the fact we've got a glass half full through here. That's very much my thing. Okay, Jamie, you're riddled with corona. It looks like it. You're going to give us a bit of useful thing. First of all, do you agree with that prognosis about where we're up to in terms of the challenge of the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think Richard Megson said it well. It was a broken system that's been exacerbated by the absolute sheer volume that's been thrown at it. I think we're not out of the woods yet. I think there's still going to be a lot of transactions being thrown in the top of the hopper in the blind hope that they'll be able to take advantage of the stamp duty deadline. But the reality of it is, anything that gets agreed from here on in, it doesn't stand much of a chance unless you're looking at a very specific transaction. It's cash funded. You've got a good solicitor or a good sales progressor, or it's through auction, or there's a reservation agreement attached to it. there's very little chance, I think, that a standard private treaty transaction, or God forbid, a chain transaction would get through between now and the end of the stamp duty holiday. I'm quite positive about the market next year, to be honest. I think it's going to continue. So I'm dying of man flu, not corona. I've been tested and I am just got old-fashioned man flu. But yeah, I'm confident. I think that there's going to be a lot of transactions in the market next year, to the point around the 95% mortgages. That drives movement in the market at the right end. I think we're all looking at how we live our lives, where we work, where we live. Do we have to travel in the way that drives the market? So I think transactions will happen next year. I think Q1 next year will be the busiest in the history of the industry ever. There's going to be some challenges for us all. I think there's going to be a lot of fall throughs. I think there's going to be a lot of renegotiations at the last minute, and I think it's going to be a bit of a bloodbath for some. But I'm hopeful that there will be a very active market next year. I'm pretty confident there will be. But to Brian's point, whether or not this is the impetus, the thing that makes more agents realise they need to approach things differently, from getting sellers legally prepared earlier, from looking at using auction as a solution so that you can capture more transactions in a different way rather than just pumping stuff through the status quo. The status quo doesn't work for everyone. Our evidence suggests that up to 30% of transactions in the UK are non-discretionary, where they need to sell, they don't want to sell. They shouldn't look at private treaty. They should look at something more suitable, like auction. Of course, I'm going to say that in the position that I'm in. But I'm on the show. Evidence like to quote from our earlier webinar this morning, we did a big piece of research survey, and it said half of sellers would be interested in auction if they knew more. Do we do enough as an industry to let consumers know that there are a multitude of ways that they can buy and sell a property? That doesn't just mean it's the 160 days or the inherent risk of fall through. We need to adapt. We need to do more, to offer more, to help in a better way.
Jamie, have you seen with the agencies that you work with more pressure coming now directly from consumers onto the agent, asking them, what other ways have you got to help me not have to go? We are. But unfortunately, what we also saw as well was agents reverting to type when we came out of the market. It came out of lockdown. July and August were some of the busiest sales months we've ever had, but actually we were a little bit down on instructions, because agents were thinking the market's booming, I can list it and sell it within a day, this is fantastic, great, bang, 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 and just kind of revert to type and stop thinking about vendor circumstances, what's the right disposal strategy. And it took a little bit of time for that to adjust. Now we're listing more than we've ever done, because people are thinking about what's coming on the horizon and looking at the speed and security that auction can bring. So it's been a game of two halves this year, to be honest. We found the same some dormant agents feel that suddenly reacted into life, jumping into reservations because it's been driven by their customers saying, right, what are you going to do to help me? I've just been stuck for 3 months. I appreciate you're focusing on doing a virtual viewing in my house, but I want to know, well, how are you going to help me out when I move? How are you going to make this thing a bit less stressful?
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing at the moment is people who are getting valuations and market appraisals done at this particular moment in time, especially in the lead up to Christmas, with it on the horizon. They're what we call non-discretionary. They need to sell for a reason. So we're having a far higher penetration into that, because our network are saying, we have options. Here's one that might suit you better, and it's ringing very true to what the vendor wants to hear. So, yeah.
Jamie, you're getting a lot of sympathy here from people. Alistair says Jamie's got COVID. I assume that's just a spelling mistake, otherwise I don't know what you're on about.
COVID, yeah, that was my best friend and best man at my wedding. Thanks, Ali.
Good. Oh, I know him, don't I? Hello, Ali. Yes, it's amazing who you've been out with a drink with. But anyway, Mr. Byfield, twice in one day, you have been a naughty Jamie.
I have.
Well, I'm going to go to our resident guru now, because what I offer to Kerfuffle in terms of being the face of fashion, Richard actually knows about the industry in detail. So, Rich, when we first started talking about this, we were talking about these being our pipeline Avengers, weren't we? Avengers Assemble. These were the people who were going to be able to help us there. first of all, before we get round to hearing a bit of detail about how these guys help solve it, what's your view on the marketplace at the moment and the challenges?
I think the challenges are, I think we've got a lack of experience in the industry. So, you know, I've been in it 24 years and you had specialist sales progression teams. And I believe that technology in lots of businesses and where staff have been furloughed is we're unable to do what we were doing 5-10 years ago. And we don't know what buttons to push. We don't know how to progress sales. We're not making suggestions to our vendors. And I think there's a big educational piece in the market. And we're not looking out of the box for solutions. You know, if we accept that local search is going to take 48 days, we accept it's going to take 48 days. Nobody is suggesting, and I'm sure Michael, Tom, Brian are going to, and Richard probably telling me I'm wrong here, but you know, search indemnity insurance, is it still a thing? How many lenders will accept it? Should agents be suggesting it? I believe there is a genuine, you know, acceptance of poor service, not by any particular part of the transaction, but acceptance of poor service rather than finding a solution. And that's what I was keen to learn off the guys today. You know, Richard, you suggested that, you know, on average, it's between 120 days and 160 days from sale agreed to exchange, yet you guys are doing it in 84. What lessons can we learn from what you guys are doing? You know, Brian, Tom, you know, you've got solutions in place that speed that along. Jamie's obviously got the auction solution, and surely now more than ever, that's got to be an option for a lot of sellers wanting to move before the 31st of March. And Michael knows, you know, what the banks are doing, what their thought process, you know, how strict are they being, what's a loan to value amount, whereby a lender goes, actually, we're going to downvalue this. Because also, on top of everything we've spoken about, agents are telling me more and more we're seeing down valuations. So I'm really eager to learn, you know, how you guys do what you do. Yeah. And Brian is very confident he's going to get a sale through in the time frames needed because he knows what to do. What can the viewers or agents learn from you guys to get these sales through?
Let's start with you, Richard, on that. We've just heard, obviously, you're almost doing it at 50% of the national rate. You obviously offer a sales progression service. Just talk us through how you managed to achieve it.
Okay, so in terms of what we do, we do have agents that use us purely for sales progression, but we have a fully managed service that bolts conveyancing. So we run a panel of conveyancers with sales progression. So in terms of that service, I mean, you know, it really isn't rocket science. And I've heard Brian on a number of webinars, and in fact, Richard, you've just said it, educating clients. And I think that's really important. But I am going to steal some of your lines, Brian. So I do apologize, but I'll give you the credit. Clients have got a responsibility as well as the agent, the solicitor, the broker. So educating clients at an early stage is important. You know, what do you expect out of this process? What do they need to do as the seller or the buyer? Because you've got a responsibility. And also instructing solicitors early. I think we'll all say that, and I've heard it a number of times, but the benefits of instructing solicitors at the point of listing is really important. So clients can get that out of the way. They can get the paperwork back with the solicitor. So when an offer is agreed, the process or the legal process can start with straight away. I think estate agents really need to do their due diligence on the solicitors that they work with. The solicitors have got to be proactive. They've got to be commercial. And to allude to what Tom said, they've got to have the capacity to do the work, because that's really important. I mean, there are still solicitor firms out there with people on furlough, which I find a real head scratcher, given that I've never been busier. Searches have been talked about a few times. Now, I'm not going to talk about search indemnity because I think Tom wants to talk about that. But as a business, we get searches ordered the day an offer is agreed and our solicitors are instructed. Searches take too long to order, typically a month after a sale's agreed. We do it on day one. And there's absolutely no doubt there are pockets up and down the country where searches are taking far longer than 48 days. So it's a real issue. So it makes sense, if there aren't other solutions, to order the searches earlier. And I'm bound to say it, but sales progression, it's not something that agents particularly like doing. It's the heavy lifting, but effective sales progression is vital. It not only ensures that things are moving forward, so it's proactive, but it ensures that people are up to date and informed. And generally speaking, when somebody's up to date and informed and they know what's happening and what is about to happen, that allows things to hold together better. But the key is to get it over the line as quickly as possible. So for the agents that are listening to this, whether you choose to outsource it or whether you choose to do it in-house, I think you need to invest in that and focus on that, because sales progression to getting a case over the line is absolutely vital. It's not for me to say whether you outsource it or not, but you have to focus on it. And I speak to too many agents, or lots of agents, where it falls to somebody whose main job is to neg. It does take hours, and it does take a lot of focus.
And unsurprisingly, you try and generalize and you don't get specialist skill sets.
Yeah,
I absolutely.
Can I ask an open question on just a point you made, Richard, but open to anybody? Do we believe that getting a vendor legally prepared or sales ready, however we phrase it, increases their commitment to the transaction? So at the point of instruction to sell their property, because they are legally prepared, because they've invested emotionally and sometimes financially, do we have any stats to show actually by doing this, you're far more likely that vendor is going to proceed to an exchange of contracts?
Yeah, Richard,
regardless.
Good one. There's two parts to that. Okay, what we have really got under the bonnet of and understood is that the commitment is not just in terms of someone being prepared to put a few forms together and stick them online. The commitment is where the estate, and it goes back to Simon's earlier question, and I agree with everything Richard said, is that to truly assess commitment, you not only need to see the willingness to obviously complete the legal forms, but the willingness to deal with any issues that the agent has spotted once they've had that information. So we talk about a gazelle with our agents and the sellers directly, a new education, and it's back to your original point about the industry needs to be more educated, but it's educated about, if they're presented with a TA6, for example, a property information form, what information that they read on there is going to clearly cause a problem once Richards gets involved with conveyancing, or Tom, and also with Michael. Are there things that is going to come up on a survey that's going to cause a retention, it's going to cause the offer to be delayed, etc., etc. So then, if the seller is prepared to action those points early while the agent's marketing, that is what we call true commitment.
But even so the agent is aware, so that they can tackle it head on in the negotiation process and in the marketing process. So a lot comes from being legally prepared. And I think the learnings you take from auction that we put into private treaty in terms of the process of being legally prepared, not just appointing the solicitor and doing your local authority work, doing your fixtures and fittings and property information questionnaire, going that one step further, draft contracts, local authority search, water and drainage, having all of that information readily available up front for any potential buyer to see. Not only does it make it easier to sell the property and make it clear to any potential purchaser what is actually being sold, but when the hammer falls, or we close an online auction, or we agree a sale pre-auction, everything's done. The legal work, when it lands with the solicitor or the sales progressor, is all there. You can cut out huge, vast amount of time. I mean, we allow 56 days for an exchange and completion to take place. We saw a little spike earlier in the year, as everyone did, due to reacting to coming out of lockdown, but we're back under 56 days in terms of a completion time frame. That comes from taking a vendor who's committed to a sale, getting everything done up front, and making that available to the purchaser so that the transaction goes smoothly. It's a process that works, and I think lots of businesses take learnings from that to try and apply to private treaty to gain some of that momentum into a private treaty transaction.
The agent has got the information that they're sharing. All of the things that can speed a transaction up, all of the bits of information are passing through the estate agent's office. The problem is they're not stopping to look at them and understand them and then act on them. And a lot of that is similar to when they're qualifying buyers and putting deals together in the first place. They can get the information, or they have seen it, choose not to digest it or act upon it. And that's what has got to change in the education that Richard was talking about.
Cheers.
I mean,
Could I just ask you a question on the subject of churning the pipeline?
Yeah.
You know, what can agents do to help? We were talking about it earlier. Is search indemnity insurance an option, and how many lenders will accept it?
Right, okay, well, if I can answer the first bit about agents, and I might have to be a little bit careful about what I say here, given the target audience. But from the impression that I've got and the opinion that I forged from at the moment, the industry is just like the Wild West out there at the moment. We've probably got agencies in two camps. We've got, the gunslinging cowboys who will say anything to appease a client, but we've also got the native servant leaders who are educating and influencing clients. So, tune that in a little bit. We've got agents who are order takers, and will just do anything a client asks them or tells them. Or we've got the true educators and influencers who are setting correct expectations. So that comes down to, are you a helpful agent or are you an unhelpful agent? I think it boils down to which camp agencies are in at the moment. So yes, we can talk about getting clients sale ready, and that does make a difference. So we've just, we're coming out of beta test on our new fast start proposition, and that will shave 3 to 4 weeks off that time by being better prepared. But it's not just about that. It's actually about the good old-fashioned communication that's going between the lines and down the line once those contracts have been issued. So if we look at fall-through rates, which have been around about a third for as long as we can remember, I've seen various reports into that detail, that actually big chunks of buyers in particular that cancel a deal is because they've got no assurance that it's progressing. So it's all about that communication line, about, right, what's the visibility that everybody's got to see what's happening at every stage of the way? Because if they feel there's no action, they think, well, this isn't going to happen. Maybe I need to turn my attention to another property. So yes, doing these things help, but actually just communicating what everybody's doing will make a huge difference. And I think this is where that education piece comes in with agents. They are the ones that are setting that expectation, and they're talking about financial services, they're talking about sales progression, they're talking about conveyancing, and that client then thinks, right, well, when these things happen, this is what's going to happen then. If they start talking to a leasehold flat seller that's going to go through in 6 weeks, once it's sale agreed, it ain't. But what will that agent do? Start finger pointing if that client has a go at them because it's gone 8 weeks and it's still nowhere near that point of exchange. So I'll give you a little example that I saw this week as well, and this just shows the strength of having a really good agent in a client's corner at the moment. It was a post I saw on LinkedIn from a business owner that had put on there. Buyer has just made a demand that they must complete on this transaction on the 11th of December. So I told the seller that. Seller basically stuck 2 fingers up and said, no, absolutely no chance. Actually withdrew from the sale and withdrew from the market. And that agent put on the hashtag welcome to 2020. I almost hit the send button on hashtag welcome to bad estate agency. Because they went back in that same message, they went back to the buyer and the buyer said, oh, I didn't mean it.
Welcome to 1974.
Well, yeah. And it's what I've just said at the start. It's about influencing and educating. So, if there is an importance of doing something, talk about it. I think the problem is a lot of agents are just talking about themselves and how they're going to sell it quickly.
We're on right moves. We're on this. We're on that. I sold this many. I sold that many. Yeah. I think we don't spend enough time in that initial conversation on the couch. Is what we talk about a lot. Exactly. Of saying, right, what do you want from a transaction? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? Right, great. Let me talk to you about private treaty and how that works. Not just explaining the key milestones and what they need to do, but the pressures. The pressures that are very real and very bespoke to the circumstance we find ourselves in now. But in a normal world, forget all of this. Talking to the seller about the steps, what their role is, what our role is, what happens from a lending perspective, from a conveyancing, from a search perspective, making it really clear. that, you know, that's how this process works. These are the advantages, these are the disadvantages. And then, you know, having more options, having an auction option, having a reservation option, having, you know, when we go and talk to, and this is the thing I always talk about, that you know, we do in the lettings business really well, and I don't have a lot of experience in that sector. I haven't worked in it, but as a landlord, when you talk to a new letting agent, they talk about all of their options: tenant find, rent guarantee, you know, fully managed, let only. There's a host of options that agent can offer someone in that scenario. And when it comes to standard, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Morgan's talking about selling their house, we don't explain enough about this, the normal process, and we don't talk about other options that are very real, you know, very effective. You know, obviously I'm coming big from an auction camp here, but, you know, the government are asking for more technology, better information up front, and a faster process. That is what we do day in, day out on a daily basis. And, you know, I think every agent should do it. There's lots of auction suppliers out there. People can do it with their own off-the-shelf software that you can lease or you can buy. I think we need to have more options, and right at the very start of the process, get a better understanding of what a client wants from a transaction, and then nurture them the whole way through that. I mean, some of you may have seen within I Am Property, we're bringing out a new product in the new year, which is all about helping estate agents help their clients through the private treaty journey, starting off with their compliance, getting them legally prepared earlier, getting them set up with a solicitor earlier. All of these things take weeks out and clearly take the seller through a journey so they understand what's happening next and what's required of them and the time that these things save them. So, you know, it's all too often, I think, we try and find radical solutions for what can be really simplistic solutions, which is just basics at the start, understand what a client wants, give them the right advice, and hold their hand and make sure they know what they need to do through the journey. Sometimes I think we're all very good at overcomplicating things.
Yeah, well,
anyone.
No, I mean, if I could just answer your point on the search indemnity, because I know that was one of the points you raised there. So is it an option? Unfortunately, the answer to that is yes and no, because it completely depends on the lender. You know, specific conditions, some will accept it, some won't. But the problem is, and I spoke to the whole law firm Sort Legal, there'd been 12 changes this week to the CML handbook around this indemnity. So it's not the answer. Some will take the insurance, some will take delay insurance. But it comes back to this point that Richard made before. It's the acceptance, right? Well, if that is the time for the search pack to be returned, more specifically the local authority search, get it done on day one, buyer. You've put an offer forward to that seller. That seller wants commitment on day one. They've chosen your offer, probably maybe out of 2 or 3 other offers on the table. So if they're going with you, crack on with what you say you're going to do. Get on with your searches order. You know, to help influence buyers to do that, a few weeks ago, we put free buyer protection on each purchase case that runs through our platform, because that means if it does fall through and it's not their fault, i.e. seller pulls out or whatever, you know, they'll get the monies back for search pack and other expenditure. So, you know, it gives them that safety there, but it's got to be, we're not just talking about sellers and their quick actions. Buyers have got a huge part to play in this as well. If they want that property ahead of 2 or 3 others in a line, crack on with everything they need to do on day one.
Simon, can I just add to that?
Let's just take Rich first, then we'll come to you, Richard, if that's all right. Oh, you're both
open question to anybody. Should agents, you know, rather than just sending out a sales memorandum with a price and a tenure, should they be agreeing as part of the purchase price an SLA whereby the buyer has some timelines to commit to, you know, mortgage applications, searches paid for, and should agents be looking at detailing a commitment level from buyers at point of offer?
I know agents that do this. Good agents are saying, you know, you've got 7 days to instruct a solicitor to organise a mortgage valuation, it's not so much whether they're sticking to those 7 days. It's just showing commitment. It's basically.
What's the penalty if they don't do it?
Sorry.
What's the penalty if they don't do it? Right. For years, as an agent, we've told people you've got 7 days to do this, or else what? They say. What are you going to do? Well, we're not.
To be honest with you, but
a reservation agreement, and then there's a penalty if they don't do it. They bloody well do it, and we
do that. But a lot of first-time buyers, a lot of home movers, they don't move often. So what they're after from the agent is what are the next steps. You tell someone the next steps, whether there's a penalty or not. The next step is you've got 7 days to get your valuation booked, and you've got to instruct your solicitor. But we can organise both of those for you now. But we're just giving them a time frame. If you leave that time frame open, and there is, the penalty could be, well, the property goes back on the market because you're obviously not a serious buyer. Now you can have penalties, but I think it's just setting a timescale and informing buyers is a very simple way of getting things moving. And I've seen good agents do that really well.
Yeah.
And Michael, we're talking just as a follow-on to you. We're hearing of a lot more down valuations from banks. Are you witnessing that?
We are seeing down valuations. Yes, there was some COVID clauses, as they called them, in London. There's sort of several different issues with surveyors at the moment. But one thing I'd like to do is myth bust, because what I hear often from estate agents is, it depends on the deposit, because then the surveyor is valuing the property. They will look at the amount of deposit that the buyer's got. I'd like to myth bust this now with all the agents, because surveyors, they don't know the amount an applicant is applying for. When they get the instruction, it's simply they're a third party being instructed by the bank to do one part of the job, and that's to tell them, is it suitable security for them. They are advised of, so for a remortgage or a purchase, they're advised obviously of the purchase price. So therefore, they're the estimated, as they say on the valuation report, this is the estimated valuation or purchase price. So obviously they're looking to confirm that, but the mortgage amount isn't a factor. So for those agents that still do believe that somebody putting down a 5% deposit, it can be better, because obviously if the property is down valued, then obviously they've got more larger deposit can be better, but it doesn't actually make a difference to the valuers. The valuer isn't notified previously. So I just wanted to myth bust that, because I do get after it by agents a lot.
I love that. Look, that's what Kerfuffle's here for. You myth bust away, myth bust away. And you mentioned, Michael, there that Santander were particularly culpable at the moment. Are there any other lenders that are slow at the moment? And who should agents be cautious of if involved in the chain?
Well, I think it's just understanding that self-employed applicants, unfortunately, are being assessed in a different way. So a lot of lenders right now, they do have two channels. They've got underwriters just dealing with self-employed applicants and underwriters dealing with employed. For the self-employed applicants, they're looking to see whether they're actually still trading. So because obviously predominantly they're looking at last 2 years tax calculations, tax year overviews. They now want to see are those businesses still trading. So quite often they're looking for 3 months bank statements to show some activity still going back through the accounts. So all of that is a manual process, where previously they'd be able to, have maybe juniors looking at paperwork to assess documents. Now for the self-employed, it's taking longer because there's more underwriting, as I say, to look through. For employed applicants, the government constant change of the furlough scheme, were very welcomed, but lenders were in the background churning, how are we going to deal with the clients on furlough as it got approached the end of furlough. Lenders were thinking, well, if they're not back now, we're not going to accept it. Whereas beginning of furlough, there was a lot more encouragement. So I'm not encouraging agents to delve into too much detail in terms of an applicant's employment status, but don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid. You're there to act for the vendor to assess someone's eligibility. So asking further questions about their eligibility, and not just simply relying on an agreement in principle I would encourage. It's up to the buyer to obviously disclose what they want to disclose. It's up to them to prove that they've got the ability to purchase. I think right now we are trying to help our vendors get across the lines as well to help with their purchases, so that they can save the stamp duty. So I think just understanding the market as a whole is really important. And one thing, the common theme that I've noticed everybody say, it's all around communication. And that at every single stage it's about that communication. They might have received an email that they needed to respond to. Well, I didn't realise I needed to receive I'd have responded to that. That's another week gone by. We might have had some information that we need further information, and I didn't notice that I needed to provide that information. That's another week gone by. So all of these points. So the future is definitely having one central blockchain, if you like, response to everybody being able to dip in, understand exactly where we are, and progress that.
Michael, just on that point, and it's a really good point. I'd love to think that we've had a eureka moment on Kerfuffle, and we've suddenly said, you know what, we should all be communicating. Communication has been the name of the game now for decades as best policy. Why is it still not happening? Because you can't. You just, you mentioned blockchain there, and look, nobody, even though I don't understand it, I'm waiting for blockchain. But we don't. Surely we don't need blockchain to make communication happen.
I wouldn't say it's just blockchain. I mean, blockchain obviously is a way.
We don't need. Surely we don't. Or is it that we do need
to? We do communicate. There's some fantastic agents. There's some fantastic conveyancers. Some fantastic brokers constantly, always communicating on a daily basis with each other. We just need better forms of communication. More consistent forms of communication. That's what the software, that's what the technology will enable us to do, to tap in. Lenders have talked about creating platforms where we can have applications being submitted in a uniform way, so that there's not different underwriting processes. But they're not going to come together and agree on one particular platform. But from the mortgage perspective, that's being improved by technology all the time. We've got open banking. The future of that is that we'll send an email to a client, we'll request their bank statements. Speaking to a company the other day, Click to Check. They've already doing that. Fantastic company, forefront of the technology side, being able to download you can authorise your bank statements to go over to a mortgage broker and download information there. So it's all coming, but it can't come soon enough.
No, that's true. Jamie, obviously auctions known for speed and certainty and everything else there. Are you seeing an uptake in the amount of properties coming to market for the auction process at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. Last month was our best month we've ever had in 11 years, and this month we're 40-something% up on the same period last year. So we are seeing a significant rise, not only in number, but in the number of agents within our network that are active in a time frame, as they're ultimately reacting to messaging that we provide, and consumers are more. I think it's just ringing true to a lot more sellers in the marketplace at the moment, that speed and security is here, and it's an option that agents can offer. So yes, simple answer is yes, we're seeing a lot more. I think that will continue for a multitude of reasons. From a consumer perspective, if it's the right advice for them, then I think agents will do it. But also from a business perspective, the fact that a significant proportion of the workload is picked up by our team, and of course the route to cash for the seller is that bit faster. Route to cash to the seller and to the agent is that bit faster with us. So yes, certainly it's an interesting. I saw Sarah's comment pop up there. The whole piece on blockchain. I think at some point, but I mean, I just don't see how a private company, because it's going to have to be, can create a platform that everyone's going to agree with and be comfortable with. I think it's a long way off.
It's like, a nuclear two people doing it. You've got it with about 20 different partners needing to do alternate at the same time, don't you?
Well, yeah, and then you've got, Brian, the conveyancer, who, still operates above a chip shop somewhere, doesn't actually have a computer, his receptionist does. How does that work? Because, until it's everyone, we're a long way off. So we've got to look at little incremental changes that we can make on a process that's relatively straightforward but relatively broken at the same time to help as many people through the process in the time that works for them.
Don't let perfect there, Jamie.
Don't what?
I just say better collaboration amongst all of us as well is a really important future, because one of the other things we've got to be careful of is that estate agents are central to this, most of them with their sellers, and they are being bombarded with so much different property technology and different ways of doing things. There has got to be, in my opinion, even as the CEO of Gazelle, we need to get a lot of these people, a lot of us need to be joining forces and working together, better collaborations, better communications between us to offer much stronger solutions to agents rather than having 400 dashboards they've got to log into.
If only there was a company or a website that just pulled together all the information of all the suppliers out there in the world and made it really easy for estate agents to get a feel for who was the best, and they give videos. And I mean, we're just crying out for that as an industry. I mean, it just can't come soon enough.
Well done there, Jamie. Well done. Just on another point there, though, Jamie, you did just reiterate again what lessons you think agents could learn from the efficiencies you guys drive.
So I think a lot of the messaging from today's call about being legally prepared, about spelling out the steps that a vendor will need to do along the way, about getting more information available up front, are being done in part across the industry, which is great. But that is it. That is the simple message. Prepare your seller early. Prepare as much information up front. Signpost them on what they will be required to do through the journey. Communicate every step of that along the way, and ultimately you will end up in a better position with your seller and give them a solution that works. Or if they really want to do it properly, just put it through auction.
There you are. Yes, you're giving a bit of advice, but really don't just come for us to auction anyway. That okay, cool. Rich, have you got any comment on any of that so far?
Well, lots of really good points. I mean, I always find this a real head scratch. You've got various stakeholders. You've got agents. You've got sales progressors. You've got search companies. You've got lenders, solicitors. I mean, ultimately, nobody gets paid until these things sort of complete, and yet there is a remarkable lack of collaboration. That said, on a slightly more optimistic level, is during lockdown, there's been lots of these, and I sense, because they're pretty well attended or watched after the event, I think there's a lot of learning going on. I think some agents may have gone back to old habits, which are not necessarily where they should be. But I agree with Brian. I think it's incremental, and I think we as suppliers have got a responsibility to keep banging the drum, because this is about education. And we're not going to fix it overnight, but we just need to keep going. We've all got slightly different solutions. We all compete, yet we're all on this platform collaborating and talking, and that is really, really positive.
That's because I've got photos of all of you that I can blackmail you with. Mr. Durrance, what are we missing? Have we missed anything that you just want to comment on?
No, I think what I've certainly got from this, and what I'll relay back to lots of agents we speak with, is it's clearly about the communication piece, but a bit of understanding, but communicate between the parties. I imagine if I'm a conveyancer and I've got an agent who understands that I submitted local authority search yesterday and is chasing me every single day if it comes back, all of a sudden that communication piece is going to fall down because I don't want to take his call. If I'm a broker and it's through NatWest and I've made the agent aware that it's a full week before we're going to see a survey, that chase up call every week is going to wind me up and I'm going to stop taking their calls. So I genuinely believe it's an understanding, putting timelines in place, a communication where each party sets out their expectation, and then that messaging to the consumer, being the vendor and the seller, is mortgage was submitted last week. We know it's with NatWest. We know it's going to take 4 weeks. We're going to chase it in 5 weeks or 4 weeks and a day if it hasn't come through. So to me, it's about all parties communicating, educating expectation levels as they change with the market, and all of a sudden everybody working alongside with a common goal, which is what they're doing. They're just pushing off each other, bouncing.
Which sounds like
And Jamie mentioned it's signposting. You know, when he said that word, it's just so important. You know, signposting. People don't know what to do. You know, it's signposting all the time. So making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people. You surround yourself with great solicitors, great conveyancers, understanding their transaction volumes, their capacity. Great mortgage brokers, obviously. You know, and have all the right people in place, you know, to make sure it's happened. But signposting people to help that communication piece work.
Yeah. So I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the average time now is 17 years between
every 7
home?
years, I think, isn't it?
How long? Sorry.
Every 7, I think, I say, but that might be old news. But yeah, every 7 years, roughly, someone sells.
The offer agrees to completion, or
But no, I mean, the point I'll make is whether it's 7, 10, 15 or 17 years ago when I started, all those timeframes are completely different to the industry that we're in now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean,
along,
we see, so as a service provider to estate agents, so we work with over 2,000 branches across the UK, and really our audience with the modern method of auction is private treaty sellers. And whenever one of our agents suggests selling via auction to a seller, sometimes they're very standoffish because it's just absolutely alien to them. But the key thing that we do in our initial conversation to a consumer on behalf of an agent is we signpost everything. This is this step, this is what happens. The reason why we can do it this bit faster is because we do these 5 steps that normally happen after now. And actually, when you really simply break it down to the seller, it's a penny drop moment. They go, yeah, this is great. Yeah, that makes total sense. And then as we move through our divisions of, you know, our pre-auction team, prep all the legals and take all those steps through the sales progression, every aspect of it, the correspondence, we said, they know what to expect and when, which just makes it easier for them to do that. And learnings that we can take from that and apply to private treaty again is very beneficial. I suggest any agents check out our I Am Property website for our new product, which is really all the learnings we've taken from auction to apply to private treaty in the best way we can.
You're getting a little bit into hard sell now, Jamie, and I respect that.
Twice in a day, I'm on here for you. Give me something.
You did give us a plug, so I'm going to just leave that earlier. Brian, Gazelle has a product clearly which gets commitment from a buyer early on in the process. Have you seen an increase in the sales progression process, or just having that level of commitment up front get everybody going in the same direction?
Yeah, so it's like the guys have all said, you know, we recognise that if there's a chain, you can only move as fast as the slowest part of the chain. I think we've done enough about talking about education up front here. That's just got to be a no-brainer. We have seen before lockdown, most agents were looking at reserving a sale with a 28-day timeline. We have to educate the agent and say, look, I'm really sorry, we think that's fantasy. You know, if you're pitching your seller that the buyer is saying they'll do it in 28 days, there's little chance they're going to do that. So let's not set them up wrong. Let's educate them. So we were saying to our agents, don't tell your client that it's going to take 28 days, because it's not. So what we initially set out to do was set a minimum term of 60 days. But clearly, as we came out of lockdown and we realized the challenges we have now, we're saying, look, let's be really honest about it. Let's between 60 and 90 days is where you want to start at. That's what I've done on my house. But be prepared that it's quite likely that will need to be extended. Now, if it's no fault of the buyers for the delay, which it probably isn't, then there's no penalties. There's no, as Michael said, I agree. We don't put guns at people's heads. We encourage them to understand that it's going to take longer. And look, most sellers and buyers that we work with, and we've had now £340 million of property since lockdown through our platform, by the way, with a 2% fall through rate. What actually we've seen is that people are very happy to work together when they've both made a commitment to each other. Yeah. You know, and that's a really positive thing out of what we're doing with reservations in the private treaty market.
It absolutely is. It's a really, really key point there. Guys, look, we've gone well over the hour now, but I want to finish with this one. Keep it short to answer under a minute here. If you had a magic wand, how would you improve the current house buying process in the UK? And because I'm simple, we're just going to go clockwise. Tom, starting with you.
How are we going to do this? Don't know. Is Roper the answer? There's one question I'll put to the room, but it's do you know what? It's working smarter, and I think the best way I'll answer that is if we put this stream out to sellers and buyers to watch this, what would their reaction be to it?
Really good point.
I think they'd probably be quite shocked, thinking, "Wow, how disjointed is your industry and your process?" So. Unfortunately, the answer is the archaic process has to get better. And when that gets better, I think the education piece gets better. But yeah, I think we keep banging on that drum. It's education and influence from agents.
Excellent, Tom. Perfect. Thank you. Michael?
I would say fit mortgages on their heads, get mortgages underwritten subject to survey. So therefore, we're not waiting for any nasty surprises. It's just a survey and you've got a mortgage offer. Bring back home information packs, which I don't think are going to come, but effectively to get ready. And I think they're the two things that could get us, save us some time.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. I was going to just don't take yourself off mute, Jamie, because I know yours will just be used auctions.
Well, because it doesn't suit everyone.
Okay,
so,
well,
mandatory preparation of documents on all sellers and mandatory instruction of a solicitor with all sellers at the point of instruction to market. That's done before it hits a portal or report goes up.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Brian?
Yeah, same thing. Mandated vendor disclosure is what we're pushing, mandated by the government and the Law Society. That is a simple and an easy to understand document that can collect all that information rather than doing 27 pages of TA forms. So re-looking at that, but mandating it at no cost.
Lovely. Mr. Megson?
Well, I don't have a magic wand, but I agree with everything the guys that say. But in the absence of my magic wand, I would offer some practical advice. Just take control of what you can control. There's there's so many variables, and all the advice that has come forward. Tom made a good point. Hopefully, people will listen to it and engage in it.
Mr. Durant, and I didn't do this on purpose, but brilliantly, it leaves Kerfuffle to have the final word.
Oh, I agree with everybody, especially what Jamie and Brian were saying. I think we're a long way away from it. So, you know, a short-term solution is every agent should have a solution in their kit bag, which represents every vendor's selling requirement. You know, if you want a quick sale, if you need to complete in X amount of days, we have a solution for that. If it needs to be longer, if it's about maximum price, but have a solution for every scenario, and therefore you can be completely upfront, completely transparent with your seller as to what you need to do to meet their requirements. Just be open-minded.
Yeah. And look, we didn't work on this, but that was a perfect segue for us. They haven't done the hard sell. Well, maybe Jamie did a little bit, but obviously every one of these has landing pages on here, and we've got deals for many of these guys as well. Go to the blogs. We highlight that information. Our job here is to bring balance to the force. I am Luke Skywalker in that respect. We've managed to find, they've mentioned before, some of these are competitors in some areas, but they've been, I think you all agree, really, really constructive in the way that they've been talking about each other, and obviously not having little snapshots at each other's businesses. I think that actually promises a lot for the future.
Simon?
Yeah.
Can I plug something that's not me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So next Friday, the 4th of December, Ben and I are hosting the virtual Agents Given charity auction. Obviously, the ball's been cancelled this year, but normally it raises a lot of money for the charity. You can find information on agentsgiven.org. Dig deep, help us sell lots virtually. It's going to be a car crash because Ben and I are doing it. So help us out.
You're absolutely perfect timing there, Jamie. And because obviously everyone's not been able to spend money this year, they should have a lot more in their kit bags to be able to do it, shouldn't they?
Yeah, that's the one.
Some retro Liverpool shirts on there signed by the players, mate. You get my money. I'm not having any Man United ones.
Just keeping my eye out for those corporate tickets, Brian. Gents, I want to say thank you very much for joining me. It's been great hearing you. It's been really great feedback. Thanks once again and have a fantastic weekend.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.